This one Sunday morning, a husband and wife, they went to Mass. After Mass, they went home and they got around the kitchen table drinking coffee and reading the Sunday paper. That they always enjoy doing. As they're reading the Sunday paper, the husband reads this very interesting article about a study that was performed, and he's reading that in this study, it was discovered that on average, women speak 30,000 words a day, and men speak 15,000 words a day. And he said to himself, I thought that was the case. So as he read that, he said to his wife, honey, you got to read this article. This is unbelievable. He said, it says here, women speak 30,000 words a day, men speak only 15,000 words a day. She read the article. And then she said to her husband, do you know why women speak twice as much in the course of a day than men? Because women have to repeat everything they say to their husbands. A couple seconds went by and he looked at his wife and he said, what? You know, that's the key point of today's gospel reading, the gospel reading itself, coming out of the 18th chapter, Luke verses 9 to 14. It doesn't matter how many words we speak in the course of a day. What is really important is what we say with the words we speak. Now, in today's gospel reading, to really get a handle on today's gospel reading, we have to turn to verse 9 and try to determine the audience that Jesus is going to address this parable toward. So let's take a look at verse 9, the 18th chapter of Luke. It says there, Jesus addressed this parable to those who are convinced of their own righteousness and they despise everyone else. Now, Jesus wants to change the style of behavior of a certain type of people. What type of people? There it is. Those who are convinced of their own righteousness and despise everyone else. He wants those people to see and understand the wrong in doing that. How they try to promote themselves while at the same time they demote everyone else. They try to make themselves feel big by making everyone else feel small and little. So Jesus is going to address this group of people in parable fashion. So that parable is going to rest in verse 10, 11, and 12. Let's take a look at that, 18th chapter of Luke again. So Jesus tells this parable to those folks who believed in their own self-righteousness and held everyone else in contempt. He said this: two people went up to the temple area to pray. One was a Pharisee, the other was a tax collector. The Pharisee took up his position and spoke this prayer to himself, "Oh God, I thank you that I'm like the rest of humanity, greedy, dishonest, adulterous, even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I pay tithes and all my whole income." What is that Pharisee saying? He's looking at God and saying, God, you should get on your knees right now and thank yourself that you made me in the first place. You should be very thankful that you created me. God, why? Because I'm not like the rest of humanity. All those folks, everyone else, they're greedy. They're dishonest. They're adulterous. Not me. I'm above all that. I don't do that stuff. He also says this, and I pay tax on my whole income. I don't try to beat the government out of a penny. I can't believe you made me. Now, God is saying that's not the kind of attitude that I want. I don't want you to speak words of self-righteousness while you try to make everyone else feel so horrible. So Jesus is going to show them how the tax collector lives life. Not to say tax collectors live life this way, but he uses an example on this particular tax collector. Let's take a look at verse 13 and then 14a, which is the first half of the 14th verse of the 18th chapter of Luke. And then it says, but the tax collector stood off at a distance. You know, that's a powerful little insight. It's there for a reason. Because that's a sign of reverence. The tax collector did not want to get close to Jesus because he felt, I don't deserve to be close. That's why he stood at a distance. And he would not even raise his eyes to heaven because he thought he wasn't worthy. But he beat his breast and he prayed, oh God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Now I tell you, the latter went home justified, not the former. The former being the Pharisee, the latter being the tax collector. Jesus is saying, those are the types of words I want you to speak, to be humble, be kind and courteous, to say words that are gentle, words that offer encouragement, not to speak words that are cunning and cruel and calculating, because that's not what I want. It doesn't matter how many words you speak in the course of a day. What's important is what you say with the words that you speak. That is everything. You know, it reminds me of what's called the triple filter test. Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, one day was standing there, and this fellow runs up to Socrates and says, Socrates, Socrates, I just heard something about your friend, and I want to tell you what I just heard. And Socrates said, wait. Before you tell me about my friend, let me ask you this. Is what you want to tell me about my friend, is it the truth? The fellow says, Socrates, I don't know. I just heard it. I didn't have time to verify it. I just heard it. Socrates, well, let me ask you this, because you don't know if it's the truth or not. If what you want to tell me about my friend, is it good? And the fellow said, well, I know for a fact, it isn't good, Socrates. It isn't good at all. That's why I want to tell you. And Socrates said, wait, so at this point, you don't know if what you tell me about my friend, you don't know if it's true. You definitely know it isn't good. Let me ask you this. If what you want to tell me about my friend, is it useful? And the fellow said, no, it's definitely not useful, just something I want to tell you. And Socrates said to him, well, if what you tell me about my friend, if it isn't the truth, and it isn't good, and it isn't useful, why tell me at all? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know. Because it doesn't pass the triple filter test. So that man didn't have to speak those words, adding to the amount of words he would speak that particular day. You know, that's really the challenge for all of us. We have an opportunity every morning when we wake up to say and speak a lot of words. But we should monitor our speech, govern that which we say. And we should use the triple filter test in whatever it is that we say. If you hear something about someone else, run it through the triple filter test. And if it doesn't pass, then don't pass it along. Check to see if it's the truth. And if it isn't, don't repeat it. Check to see if it is good, and if it isn't, don't repeat it. Check to see if it is useful, and if it isn't, don't repeat it. You know, this gospel is a nice little gospel. It has just a powerful little message, but I think if all of us individually live the message of the gospel, then collectively we could change the world to be a much better place by watching what it is that we speak and by what we say. Because you know what happens when you speak something that isn't the truth? You're going to hurt someone else, the person of that which you speak, and it isn't true. You know when you pass along something that isn't good, you're just, again, going to hurt someone else. And we do that because sometimes we're like the Pharisee. It makes us look good. Look, I'm not like the rest of people. They're greedy, they're dishonest, they're adulterous. Not me, God. I don't know whether or not women talk more than men. I'm not too sure. But I know this much. It doesn't matter who talks more and who talks less. For all of us, the important thing is this. It doesn't matter how much you talk in the course of a day. The most important thing is, what do you say in the course of a day? Think about it. And Socrates was right. Run everything through the triple filter test. Before you pass something on to someone else, ask yourself this question. Is it good? Is it true? Is it useful? Because if it isn't the truth, and it isn't good, and it isn't useful, then why use your words to pass it on to someone else?